Hello everyone, my name is Claire and I am presenting one of the volumes of the Florentine Codex. In specific, I am talking about Book 5, which focuses on the topic of omens. The Florentine Codex is seen as an encyclopedia of Nahua knowledge and the history of early modern Mexico. It has been stated that the Florentine Codex is, quote, the most authoritative statement we have of Aztec life and traditions. The Codex is quite large, and so it is sectioned into 12 volumes which cover the culture, religion, economics, and general history of the Aztec people. It contains a total of 1,200 folios, or pages, and over 2,000 illustrations. We can see some of these beautiful illustrations here. To give a bit of a timeline, the Florentine Codex was written in Mexico City during the 16th century. The Spanish Franciscan friar, Bernardino de Sahagún, worked to create this codex with the help of a group of indigenous authors and artists, along with some of his students at the Colegio de Santa Cruz de Tlatelolco. Then, after its completion, in 1577, the manuscript was sent to Europe, where it was quickly acquired by the Medici family and kept safe for centuries. Fast forward to 2002, we see Charlie Dibble and Arthur Anderson successfully translating the Codex into English after 30 years of hard work. Let's now take a look into the context of the Florentine Codex. Bernardino de Sahagún had three main goals when creating this codex. Sahagún was a missionary who wanted to evangelize the indigenous Mesoamerican peoples, and so his first motivation was religion. He wanted to describe and explain the ancient indigenous religion and beliefs so that he could help other friars better understand in order to evangelize the Aztecs. The next motivation involved language. Sahagún wanted to create a vocabulary of the Aztec language so that the friars could both learn Nahua and understand the cultural context of the language. And the third motivation was quite simply to document the cultural inheritance of the indigenous peoples of New Spain. Now that we've discussed the background of the Florentine Codex, let's get into the book that I will be focusing on today, which is Book 5, The Omens. Book 5 is split into two sections. The first includes 13 chapters, with each chapter explaining the story of a believed omen paired with a small illustration, like the one shown below. The second section is labeled as Appendix, and it includes an additional 37 chapters with much shorter omens. These chapters cover a wide range of topics, discussing things like earthquakes to what it means when one burns their maize cob. We see some very interesting stories in the first section of Book 5. One that I particularly liked was the fourth chapter, which described the meaning behind the hearing of a horned owl hoot. In the text, it reads, "All took it as an omen when the horned owl hooted. They said that when it was heard, it signified death or sickness. It was an omen of death. He who heard it would perhaps die, or beg, or be slothful. He would die of sickness or in war, or one of his sons would die, or his slave would flee." Another interesting story is seen in the 10th chapter. This omen discusses what it means to see ants, frogs, or mice. It was said that specifically, the swarming of ants was an omen of persecution. The text reads, "They said when they were seen, 'Perhaps one of our persecutors is come to bury something of our disadvantage.' What they buried they attributed to the persecutor, the one who wished one dead, the inhuman ones, demons, the so-called destroyers of people. These buried and placed ants." Now let's look at some of the omens included in the appendix. There was the 5th chapter, which told about what it meant to step over someone who was laying down. The text said, "When some child lay stretched out across one's path, if someone stepped over him, they then chid him who passed over him. It was said that thereby the child would grow no more, he would only be small. To undo this, it was said that he who stepped over the child would then have to step back over him again. Then there is the 30th chapter, which discussed what it meant when one sneezed. It was written that, when someone sneezed, they said in times past, "Someone speaketh of me," or they said, "Someone speaketh ill of me." It was thought that when they sneezed, that someone far away had mentioned them. And finally, we have the 34th chapter, which told what would happen when someone grinded stones. It was said that grinding stones was an omen of evil to the natives. When someone was grinding there and it broke, it was said that she who grounded would die, or else the householder, or their children, or someone of the household would die. I have a few final remarks about the importance of Book 5. I believe that it is important to note that even though they can sometimes feel trivial, omens and superstitions are a very valuable aspect of culture. Book 5 of the Florentine Codex holds its own kind of significance in documenting the omens of the Aztec peoples, as we can now look back to see these beliefs and compare them to some of the superstitions and omens that we may still have today. For instance, growing up, my mother always told me not to step over anyone who was laying down, and that if I did, I had to step back over them. When I read the 5th chapter in the appendix, I was so surprised to see that this superstition that I held stemmed back to the times of the Aztecs. This helped to prove that omens and superstitions are a universal experience, and displayed to me why the Book 5 is so valuable to our understanding of the Aztec culture. Here are the resources that I used to make this presentation. And that's all I have for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed.